Hi, what's up, y'all? I'm Javar. Welcome to DUSAFARMS, or welcome back. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about DWC versus COCO. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you know, like I was heavy into DWC or deep water culture. And a lot of people were like, you know, that's where a lot of people came from. They were like, hey, you do DWC. Like, a lot of people were like Taylor and watching my videos because of the DWC. And I'm still doing it, right? But you've been seeing lately that I've been doing a lot more COCO grows. I got into COCO, and now I'm leaning more heavy towards that. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why I'm leaning more heavy towards the COCO and kind of compare the two from my perspective. Okay, I'm going to quickly elaborate on what each one of them is, because I know there's going to be some new viewers here and they don't even know what DWC is, and that's fine. So DWC, or deep water culture, like I said, is a form of growing. They're both forms of growing. They're just soil alternatives. DWC is going to be pretty much where your plants are growing in water. The roots are going to be submerged in water. There's going to be no soil involved. You're going to have some sort of media to hold the roots, but pretty much everything's growing in water. You got oxygen being provided through the water, and that's pretty much DWC in a bucket. Get it? And COCO is going to be more of soil-like. It's still soil-less. It's a media, like no nutrients or anything like that. It's pretty much the whole purpose is to hold the roots, right? There's nothing and no beneficials or anything like that. You can add that stuff in there, but starting out, COCO is just plain. It just holds the roots, and you provide everything through the top dressing or your nutrients. One of the main things that DWC shines in is the growth rate. I mean, it's uncomparable. Like, soil just cannot touch it. I mean, maybe if you have everything dialed in and just someone in DWC is messing it up, of course, you know, soil is going to win. But when everything's going 100% on both ends, you can't compare to DWC. Everything is right there, readily available for the plants in that water, so they could uptake what they want when they need it, however much they want, and they could just bust growth. They got all the oxygen, everything. They could just really take off. Now, COCO, it's comparable. Now, it's not as fast, but to me, from my perspective, how I've grown, it's still faster than soil. But like I said, DWC is uncomparable. So when it comes to growth rate, DWC shines. Like, that's one of the main proponents why I love it. Like, you can wake up in the morning, check on your plants, go to work, do whatever you're going to do, come back, and you're going to see growth. Now, no matter what media you're growing, the plants are going to grow throughout the day. But yeah, if you haven't done DWC yet, try it and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Your plant will go from a seedling to like a mature. That's a huge drastic change. But what I'm saying is, like, it's just night and day. Like, one day, like an hour, you can see it. Like, they grow pretty fast because they're uptaking so much water just rapidly. And with that water, both of these actually, when it comes down to water, they use DWC uses more water. It's going to use a lot more water. They both use a lot more water than soil traditionally, because COCO, you're pretty much doing a flood to drain. Most people are. So you're using a lot of water. You're flooding until it drains out. Boom. Keep it going. DWC, you're prepping like multiple gallons. If you just got a 5-gallon bucket, you're not going to fill all 5 gallons up, but you may prep a little bit more, because guess what, you're going to have to do some top refills, or you can just re-prep it every time. But in DWC, with that size, with that growth rate, they're uptaking a lot of water, and they're doing that rapidly. So you could probably refill as a plant matures. Come flower time, you could probably refill like 2 to 3 times a week, every 2-3 days maybe. So when it comes to stuff like that, the water, DWC is going to use a lot more water. And with that, the consumption of everything, they actually use a lot more electricity too, because you got to have more components. It's a little bit more complicated than COCO. COCO is still like soil. It's just a media. It's a substrate. Now, DWC, you got to add some more things to it. They both need nutrients, but with DWC, you got to have like a air pump that's, you know, using oxygen no matter whatever size you get. It's not a lot, but it's running 24/7. So, you know, that's paying a total electricity bill. It's not as much as lights, nowhere near that, but still more electricity is being used for that. And there's a bunch of more other upfront costs. Like DWC, you're going to have to get your buckets, your lids, your media, pretty much like your hydrogen or whatever. Both are going to need nutrients, but you're going to have to get those extra things. Whereas COCO, the only thing, guess what? You could just get a bag. You can get a big old bag of COCO, and then you have your pots. That's 2 things pretty much right there. Or what you could do is just get the COCO bricks, and that comes with the bag, and the brick is inside the bag, and you just expand it. So upfront costs, I mean, it's going to be cheaper for COCO. And then DWC, yes, you're only going to have to buy those things once, but still, I mean, COCO, you'll probably have to, if you get the bricks, you're going to have to keep buying them or whatever. But So that initial cost up front is going to be more on the DWC end. Coco is going to be a little cheaper for the upfront cost. Now I want to talk about the size of them. Like I said, with the Coco, you can get the bricks, and it can be either 1 gallon, 2 gallon, 3 gallon, 4 gallon, 5 gallon, whatever you're going to go with. You'll come to find you can grow some decent sized plants in 1 gallons. You could probably use, I mean, of course, the bigger, the healthier the roots are, the bigger and healthier the plant is going to be. But lately I started out with the 2 gallon, and since then I've switched to the 1 gallons. No problem. Yes, they're going to take water a little bit faster, whatever. I'm watering every morning, every night. But, that's no problem for me. And that's one of the reasons why I like it. It's just the size of Coco. Like, Coco is just, it's a 1 gallon, 1 gallon little pot, right? Compared to a 5 gallon bucket, 10 gallon bucket, whatever your reservoir is going to be for DWC. Moving that 5 gallon bucket around, that, honestly, moving a lot of water like that adds up. I don't know what the math is, how much that weighs, but it probably weighs like 20, 30, 40 pounds. Depending on how many buckets you've got. At one point, I grew 8 plants in DWC, not on our DWC. That would be so much better because it's recirculating. I could just go the res, empty that. But with DWC, they're all individual buckets. So, prepping each individual bucket, moving those around, you can't really move them. And plus in DWC, if you want to do like training, with the trellis net, boom, you slap your trellis net on there, whatever. It's going to be hard to kind of lift those buckets up, get in there, do your water changes. It's going to make it a little bit, it's going to be making it a little bit more difficult. Unless you were doing something like RDWC where you just got everything connected and you just can go to that one res that's untouched and just drain everything and refill from there. But if you want to do training, you're going to have to kind of maybe tie down some stuff to the bucket lid or, configure something. I mean, you can still use the trellis net. It's just going to make it a little bit more difficult and you're going to struggle. You're going to just find that it's like, this is, it's a pain. I don't really want to move this. And it's going to make you, turn to those alternatives like tying stuff down to the actual bucket lid. And with Coco, I move my plants all the time. My mother area, I pick up a 1 gallon pot, big old mother plant. It's in a 1 gallon pot. I move it out to because I don't have a flood table in the tent. I move it out to the flood table. I give it its water, drain it out, and I put it right back in the tent. No problem. Huge plant. The plant's pretty tall in a 1 gallon pot. In a bucket, that would just be like, why are you doing this? Plus, you got everything connected to stuff. You got your air line running through there. It's just like the maneuverability on a DWC versus Coco is just, DWC, you're not going to move it like you want to. It's going to be a task to move it and do all that extra stuff. And with that moving into training, like I want to train my plants and I want to do stuff like that. And that was just always a headache to me when I would have to do my water changes, moving stuff. I'm breaking branches. So that's why I kind of leaned more heavy towards Coco because I realized like, I don't have to move them. And if I do, it's super easy. But when it comes to water, I just water them, and that's it. I don't have to move them out of the way, lift stuff up. The trellis net is unbothered. Like, I can leave it right there and still water my plants. Also, with the size and everything like that, the number of plants you can fit. Like I said, in my 4x8, I ran 8 plants. Obviously, DWC, there was still space. I probably could have did maybe 10 buckets, maybe 12, but with DWC, you don't really have to do that. I shouldn't have done 8 plants. I probably should have just did like 4 in my 4x8 tent, 2 on each side or whatever, and then just let them get super big, whatever. Because in DWC, the growth rate is fast. You're cutting down, on a week just compared to that growth rate, and you don't have to veg as long. But if you veg as normal, if you did a 30-day veg and you really grew your plants out, or did a month and a half of veg, you could really fill that 4x8 tent out with just 4 plants. And that's one thing I wasn't really focused on, the training and everything like that. I should have cut the number of plants down to help with that workload, but I wasn't thinking. Now with Coco, my 4x8 tent, I had 8 plants on just one side, and I could have fit more, like if I wanted to. Like in reality, they're like 6 by 6 inches, the 1 gallon pots. If I wanted to, in a 5x5 tent, I could probably, if I was gonna flip the plants right away, if I'm just trying to have a perpetual grow, get everything going, I'd get a clone, veg it for like 7 days, and then just flip it. It's not gonna, bust out too much, not gonna be too much space. Honestly, I could probably fit in that 5x5 if I had like some sort of hose to where I could water them and I don't have to move them at all. I could definitely probably fit like 100 plants, so if you do the math, whatever, at least in a 5x5, you could, if you did the math of everything, you could probably do 100 plants. I wouldn't say do that, but I would say more like, you could probably do 20 comfortably, move them around. If you were like pheno hunting, you were just trying to do a quick pheno hunt, which I'm actually doing a pheno hunt now, but I'm only doing 10 plants with Coco. But yeah, like stuff like that is going to be like the size of it. You're going to be able to grow bigger plants in DWC. Of course, you should be trying to. I wish that's what I would have did. Just grew like one plant in DWC and let it get massive and fill out a whole tent rather than trying to, do what I was doing in like pots, like forget that. It's not the same. Grow one big plant. It's going to be worth it as compared to growing multiple smaller plants at DWC. Because in DWC, you're going to want that bigger plant. You shouldn't be trying to grow small plants at DWC. You can, but I would just try to go for like the bigger plants. It's going to be more appealing. You're going to get more from it. It's going to be worth it overall. And in cocoa, you can grow bigger plants. You can grow smaller plants. Like I said, you could do a 7-day veg, flip them to flower. You can flip them to flower day 1, or you could let them do a 30-day. I've done 30 days, depending on the plants, the cultivar, or whatever. You know, that strain just might grow rapidly, so you may have to do the 7 days or 2 weeks or, 21 days. You may not be able to do the whole month. But I grew some plants that got huge. They were taller than me, but those were actually in 2-gallon pots. So they got pretty big, pretty tall. Those things stretched. They like quadrupled 4 times, and plenty of room. Everything was fine. I actually ended up, moving them. If you see my CD harvest videos, I transferred them from one tent to the other tent while they were like late in flower. So that was a pretty difficult task. But overall, out of everything with DWC and cocoa, like I'm leaning more heavy towards the cocoa, only because it's a lot more easy, a lot more stressful, a lot less stressful. But it's overall, to me, it's from my perspective and how I grow, it's just a lot better for me. I still love DWC and I'm still going to keep doing DWC. But like I said, I'm only going to do one plant, because I could sit there and enjoy it. I don't have to make it a headache. I don't have to make it a task. It's just on the side doing its thing. Whereas everything else in cocoa, I'm growing. I'm enjoying it. I could do a whole bunch of plants. Right now, I got a bunch of plants, and it's not even a task for me. So I'm setting up irrigation and stuff like that, but it's just a lot more easy and a lot less stressful in cocoa overall. And if I had to compare the two, quality of everything, now this is like the last one for me. This is like the biggest one. Everything else, obviously cocoa is just easy in general, but when it comes to the overall product, the quality of everything, my best buds have been from cocoa. I'm growing DWC now, so I can see how I do in there. I'm already kind of running into some problems with that Hey Abby box, but overall, it could have just been that I got better with growing and my knowledge increased or whatever. Like I expanded my knowledge. I learned a little bit more and I applied that. But I don't think that's the case. Like, of course I'm learning stuff, but I was learning stuff in DWC and I was thinking I was doing good. But switching to cocoa, like I've had friends try my stuff and they're just saying like, claiming like, yo, this is your best stuff. Yeah, this is someone saying like it's the best stuff I've ever had. Like if you see my Instagram, I'm not sitting here bragging or anything like that. But what I'm saying is like that's the feedback I'm getting from people, and I'm generally seeing. I'm biased when I'm always sitting there being super critical when I try my stuff out. I'm like, nah, this it could be better. It could Yeah, so like I said, if you've seen the Instagram, then you can see the night and day difference. Like, go see some of the DWC grows, which there's some good ones, and there's some terrible ones. I won't say there's like great ones, but then you go to cocoa and compare it to the DWC plants, it's like night and day. Keep in mind, it wasn't the same strains or cultivars. I got that going right now, so I can be able to compare it. I got 2 of the same strains, one's in cocoa, one's in DWC, so I can sit there and compare them and see like overall, like, okay, it wasn't just the strain, it wasn't just the growability, it's just like, you just did a lot better in cocoa. So from my perspective, I'm better with cocoa, in my opinion, and I like it way more. I'm never going to give up DWC. I find it fun. It's super fun, but it's just not something I want to do on scale or whatever. But overall, that's just my opinion. If you're struggling with DWC, you sucked at soil. I know a lot of people out there, I sucked at soil. But if you were just one of those people that just soil wasn't your thing, DWC, you're liking it, but you're struggling with it, I would go and try cocoa. Just give it a try. Just grow one plant, see how you like it. Just grow the same strain compared to DWC. If you're struggling, if you're loving DWC or you're great at it, keep going, keep growing, keep doing your thing there. But some people are struggling DWC. I get DMs all the time, and I tell them, hey, have you tried cocoa? And they're like, no, I went from soil. I sucked at it, did DWC. I'm like, hey, try cocoa. I promise you, you're gonna, if you're liking DWC, you like that growth rate, but you know it's a little difficult for you, try cocoa, and then maybe you can go back to DWC, learn some stuff or whatever. But I'm telling you, cocoa, like I love it. Like I want to try Rockwool just to try it, because I struggled with Rockwool for clones, but then lately I've been using Rockwool for clones, but I still like the peat moss cocoa cubes or plugs. So overall, that's why I'm leaning more towards cocoa. And like I said, if you're struggling, go ahead and give it a try. It might be worth your while. If not, you could come blame me, come back, like, hey, you suck, you gave me bad advice, blah, blah, blah. Like I said, just try it out. Don't blame me for your problems, right? I'll be trying to help people out, but I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace.